Sixth regular meeting, February 8th, 2022 is now called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Carviallo.
Present.
Council Collins.
Present.
Council Knight.
Present.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh.
Present.
President Morrell.
Present.
Vice President Bears.
Present, 7 present, 0 absent. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hearings 22-037, City of Medford, notice of a public hearing. The Medford City Council will hold a continued public hearing in the Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George P. Hassett Drive, Medford, and via Zoom on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. on a petition from Orbelin Abazi of OB's Auto Service to operate an automotive repair and auto body shop Class 4 license at 38 Harvard Avenue, Medford, MA 02155 in a Commercial 1 zoning district. A Zoom link for this meeting will be posted no later than February 4th, 2022. Petition and plan may be seen in the office of the city clerk, Medford City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts. Call 781-393-2425 for any accommodations and aids. TDD 781-393-2516. The city of Medford is an equal opportunity employer. By order of the Medford City Council, Adam Hurtubise, city clerk. Do I see Mr. Abazi? Is here in person? Wonderful. I believe where we left this off was there was a question as to whether this was an allowed use under the special permit. And I believe Councilor Knight has had some communications with city staff regarding that. Councilor Knight.
You think you believe wrong.
I believe wrong. All right.
Mr. President.
Anytime that a motion's been made on the floor, communication with the city staff should come directly to the council, not to an individual counselor made the motion, right? So ultimately, last week I raised the question as to whether or not this is a use that would have to go to our community development board. It's outlined in chapter 94 of our zoning act. And I asked the question as to whether or not this is one of those uses, because the paper before us didn't say what the use was that we were voting on. So the question would then come from this council to the administration. The administration would assign it to a council, to a staff member. The staff member would report back to this council via the administration. I haven't received any correspondence or communication relative to this subject matter. I don't know if my colleagues have or if the clerk has.
Mr. Clerk, have you received any correspondence regarding this
I
matter?
have not received written correspondence, but I did hear from,
Could you?
I have not received written correspondence. I did hear from the solicitor who said that the building commissioner said it was allowed use.
Right. The question was whether or not, it wasn't whether it was an allowed use, because it's a special permit, right? It was an allowed use, it's a special permit that's before us. The question was whether or not this had to go to the CD board before the council voted on it pursuant to 94. What it says there, 9481B of the zoning act.
All right. Well, in that case, Chair of Licensing, do you have a recommendation?
Well, Chair's still in doubt. I think that, is the legal representation, is Ms. Scanlon on or Mr. Mulkey on tonight? Because unfortunately, I hate to hold our petitioner up again, but it is a valid question that we needed answered for tonight's meeting. I believe we actually put in the resolution that it was date determined. It was, we were pretty strict about that. So we're under the assumption that would the chief of staff know any way to, find a way to contact either the city solicitor or Mr. Mulkey to get on the call later on this evening, so we don't have to do another night and just table this for later on in the meeting.
I'm comfortable with that. Is that a motion?
If we can,
They're not on. They're not on
the
right
chief
now.
of staff isn't on either.
I do not see. Well, the chief of staff is.
Oh, there you go. If we
like-
can,
Having total.
is there a way to reach out to the city solicitor to see if they can answer that question, or?
I'm happy to set. One of them is available to join the meeting this evening. I'll
If
do
we
that
can,
right now.
just,
Thank
I
you.
hate to waste the
Understood.
petition is another week, and I know that it's a question that's a legitimate question that we need before we move forward, so I
Sure, I'm
appreciate it.
genuinely not familiar with the details of the
Okay,
topic,
yeah,
but
no, I
again, I'm
understand
happy to
it's-
reach out.
We can, thank you. if you
Thank
can.
you.
All right.
On the
So-
motion of Councilor Scarpa at the table.
Right, if we could table to until we get communication, so if we could just ask the petitioner.
What? It's a continued public hearing, yes. It's a motion to continue the public
Motion
hearing.
Continue.
Okay.
All right, just so the petitioner knows, we're just waiting for what we're asking for from the legal department to let us know that we're taking the proper course so that doesn't affect you moving forward. So we're just waiting for someone if they can call us before the end of the meeting tonight, okay?
All right, so on the motion of Counselor Scarpelli to continue the public hearing.
Yep.
We may we may take this up again at this meeting.
Yep.
Seconded by Counselor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo,
Yes.
Counselor Collins,
Yes.
Counselor Knight, Counselor Scarpelli,
Yes.
Counselor Singh,
Yes.
President Morrell,
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. The hearing is continued. 22-063 offered by Counselor Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council extend its deep and sincere condolences to the family of Frank Palmisano on his recent passing. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Although I did not know Mr. Palmisano well, he was a neighbor of mine, grew up around the corner from him, and he was always a gentleman that was well respected in the neighborhood. If he's anything like his son Carmen, then we know that he's a great man. His son Carmen and I have become friends over the years. Carmen carries himself as such a gentleman that it's only fitting to say it's a reflection of his father. And recently, the city of Medford lost Mr. Palmisano, and I'd like to ask my council colleagues to join me in extending our deep and sincere condolences to the family of a lifelong Medford resident.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. If you don't mind, if you could move the microphone a little closer to your mouth. We're
Oh,
having
sorry
some
about that.
issues hearing you with the air. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you for Council Knight bringing this forward. I honestly, I thought that if he doesn't mind me adding my name to this resolution, I thought I did. I'm very close friends, graduated with his son Carmen and friends with his daughter Fran. Mr. Palmisano was bigger than life. He was that type of life of the party that worked for years for the Duck Tours and was a legend there. Always a person to make other people laugh and make other people feel comfortable. Another member of our community that had a battle of devastating illness and unfortunately passed on that with major suffering. And it's something that, you know, you wish you could take away, but I know that he's not in pain anymore and he's in a better place. And for his family, you know, Medford residents who grew up and loved our community and, you know, raised by his wonderful parents, their wonderful parents, and Mr. Palmisano was definitely the anchor of that family. So someone will definitely be missed. So our condolences to the Palmisano family.
Thank you, Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Though I didn't know Mr. Palmisano personally, I am very friendly with the family, and I've heard the stories and legendary tales of his years on the duck boats and the many friends that he's made over there. So again, condolences to the family of Mr. Palmisano.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Any further comments from the council or members of the public? Mr. Cassidy, name and address for the record, please. It isn't quite yet. Just give him, there you go.
Thank you, Council President. I'm out of breath, having a hard time breathing with this mask. It's the most addictive drug in the world, nicotine. Did you know that 1 gram of nicotine would kill an elephant? True story. I wish I never started. Good evening, city councilors. First off, congratulations on your reelection to the new, all you councilors that were reelected, and to the new 2 councilors. Also, I must thank the others who ran for office and caring for Medford's future. Thank you all. I'm sorry Frank Palmisano is gone. I first met him at the Old Medford High School in 1965. After school, we used to go walk 1 block to Joe's pool room on the corner of High Street and Forest, down the cellar with 10 pool tables. I guess we were practicing geometry, mathematics, as we shot many pool balls. And sometimes we all talked about how we could avoid being drafted into that lousy Vietnam War conflict. For you see, in the 60s, we teenagers had real issues to protest and worry about. The raging war in Vietnam, or was it a conflict? And the draft. Enough of our history. I simply want to say, frankly, Frankie was a good boy and a man of good character. He'll be missed by many. Thank you, Councilor Knight, for bringing this forward and letting me know about this. And thank you all for listening. Peace.
Thank you, Mr. Castanetti. On the motion of Counselor Knight and Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Caraviallo, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo,
Yes.
Counselor Collins,
Yes.
Counselor Knight, Counselor Scarpelli, Counselor Singh,
Yes.
President Morrell,
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative, the motion passes. If everyone could please rise for a moment of silence. Suspension of the rules to take paper 22-073, communications for the mayor by Counselor Caraviallo, seconded by Counselor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo,
Yes.
Counselor Collins,
Yes.
Counselor Knight, Counselor Scarpelli,
Yes.
Counselor Singh, President Morrell,
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 in the negative. We've taken paper 22-073, which I'll now read. 22-073, February 4th, 2022, by electronic delivery to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council, City Hall, Medford, Massachusetts, 02155. Regarding Home Rule Petition Charter Commission, dear President Morrell and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following Home Rule Petition and transmit to the General Court for their consideration. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brianna Lungo-Kern, Mayor. The Home Rule Petition is the following: an act authorizing the election of a charter commission in the city of Medford, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Court assembled and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1, notwithstanding the provisions of Chapter 43B of the general laws or any provisions of any general law, special law, or regulation to the contrary, the City of Medford City Council shall, at the first regular city election or earlier occurring special election held on or after the 60th day following the effective date of this act, by order, provide for the election of a 9-member charter commission. Section 2, the charter commission shall be composed of 1 commissioner elected from each of the 8 wards of the city and 1 elected at large. In the event a charter commissioner elected to represent a particular ward should move within the city during their term of office, they may continue to serve as the representative from the ward from which they were elected. The vacancy created by any commissioner who moves from the city during their term of office or who resigns may be filled by a majority vote of the entire commission. Other than Section 3, other than as set forth herein, the provisions of Chapter 43B of the general laws shall be applicable to the nomination and election of the charter commissioners and to the duties and responsibilities of the city and the charter commission elected hereunder. Section 4, this act shall take effect upon its passage. And just to be clear, the Section 2 regarding 1 commissioner elected from each of the 8 wards and 1 elected at large is for the charter commission, not, it would not be for anything else, just for the charter commission that would be allowed by this home rule petition. Any counselors? Counselor Caraviallo.
Mr. President, thank you. On Section 2, I just have a little question with the language on the vacancy. Whether if someone to leave the ward or move out of the city, I would like to see that position filled by, where this is an election, by the person who finished second in the election versus being nominated by the group. So I say these people are elected, and I say if that person moves out of the ward or out of the city, I'd like to see the person who finished second in the election fill that spot. So we can amend it.
That's an amendment from Counselor Caraviallo so that any vacancy on the charter commission would be filled by the person who received the next most votes in the election to that commission.
I would second that.
Seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. Any further comments from members of the council?
Mr. President,
Counselor Scarpelli.
first, I'd like to thank, I know there's a group of residents that are actively taking a role in making sure that this is presented the right way, so it's sent to the state in the most positive light moving forward. When I was first elected, one of my first initiatives was looking at charter review, making sure that we could revisit something that we haven't seen in so many years. So I think that had changed with me. Last time we voted, I voted no, and the reasons were very simple. It was so simple that what was asked for was yes or no and move forward. I think it's important that as you talk about a commission, one of the biggest things I think needs some debate is the understanding of ward and precinct representation. I think that that sounds so easy for everybody, and there are definitely some pros in that aspect of, you know, making sure that each ward are represented. But speaking for myself, working in a municipality in a community that has ward and precinct representation, I see a lot of negative affects of that situation where it becomes a special interest option, special interest groups around the city. Not what I see is a lot of negativity in the sense that you have one community member in one part of the community holding their colleagues hostage and for what they want their initiatives to move forward, not what's greater for their community as a whole, but for their small piece of the community. And I saw negative effects a few times that it didn't help the community. And because of that, and you know, some other options that when, you know, you get a phone call from someone from South Medford, or I get a phone call from someone from West Medford, or someone from the Wellington Glenwood area, I work just as hard as if it were someone in my own backyard. So it gives people the opportunities to call 7 different counselors to really push an initiative or a concern that they're not following. So I see the benefits there. I know that there are benefits to go through with it, to look at that. But again, when it was first presented as charter change or charter review, it was cut and dry. When I had a great discussion with some members of the committee and talking about having a forum where we could discuss these options, where it's more of a thought process that it's discussed, it's understood, and maybe moving forward, it could be something that as you go forward with the initiative and what you're looking for charter review, at least every piece is broken down and discussed and then thought upon. So, but I do think these are, you know, if as we move forward with this initiative, I think that I would support it now. I would move forward, I think, but it's also a lot of questions that I think that we should really meet together with the administration and the committee members that are looking to form this commission and meet in the committee of the whole meeting and iron out any concerns and issues, and then bring this forth with the solid base so we can move forward with the vote of 7-0 to go to the State House, so we have no issues or concerns. Because I think that was the biggest thing as we move forward in the past. It was unanimous support from the council to the State House saying we all support it. And I think that, you know, making sure that we have all of our questions answered and all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, I think moving this to a committee of the whole in a relatively short period time that we can get all the stakeholders in this room to discuss all the questions and then put this forth to a vote and later on the next meeting, so we can find a way to move forward in a 7-0 vote. I would recommend that tonight.
So
That's an emotion. Yes,
that's a
please.
motion.
Please.
So motion by Counselor Scarpelli to refer this to committee of the whole, seconded by
I'll second that. sir.
Seconded by Counselor Knight. Further discussion, President Morrell, and then Counselor Knight, and then Counselor Collins, and Counselor Capello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, and I will be brief because as Councilor Scarpelli or someone already noted, there's a lot of people here who want to speak on this, but I mean, I'm in favor of this. I'm also in favor of, getting that stronger vote. I understand that some councilors have their concerns. I voted for this in the past. I will vote for it again. If nothing else, in the fact that this is step one in a review of a document that has not been reviewed in the lifetime of almost half of this council. I'm just on the edge. It has been reviewed in my lifetime by a year. But most of the council or, 3 members of the council, we have not looked at this document in their lifetime. So I think it's just prudent that it's something that is reviewed. And I think we've seen a lot of good work out of commissions in the city as of late. And I think this is something that could have further good work done on it. But I'm also open to getting to that stronger vote so that hopefully the State House can act on this. Thank you.
Thank you, President Morrell. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. And looking at section 2 of this paper that's before us this evening, this proposal, it says the Charter Commission shall be composed of 1 commissioner elected from each of the 8 wards and 1 elected at large. This paper also says that this charter review is being brought forward underneath Chapter 43B of the General Laws. If we look at section 6 of Chapter 43B of the General Laws, it says the Charter Commission shall consist of 9 registered voters of the city or town elected at large. So it sounds to me like we have a conflict of language here right now, Mr. President, with the paper that's before us versus the plain language of the state law that governs charter review.
Is that a request for anything from the city solicitor regarding that? Okay. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd support the motion to move this to a committee of the whole. I think Councilor Scarpelli raises a point that I've heard from multiple sources that, our best chance for passing a home rule petition for charter review is to pass it with unanimous vote from the council. Respectfully, I hope that we're able to get to 7-0 because as Councilor Scarpelli, as President Morrell already said, it's been a long, long time since we've reviewed this foundational code of our city. I've heard from a lot of constituents just over the past week about this and a lot more ever since I started campaigning. I think this is a really top priority issue for a lot of people who live in Medford. One raised, I think, perhaps the most salient point of all, which is, any important binding legal document, it's a good idea to review it every once in a while, kind of like we're currently doing with our Code of Zoning ordinances. To me, there's simply no reason not to do it. And, this home rule petition is just to the question of, do we give Medford an opportunity to review that charter or not? It's not, we're not weighing in on what should come out of that charter review commission. So, I hope that we can take steps to give a strong vote on this. And, I know I'll be voting in favor and excited to present this opportunity to the city.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. Counselor Carviallo, then Counselor Sang.
I voted for no for this on 2 other occasions. The reason why is because I don't want just a bunch of appointed people to be making decisions. In my heart, it's my belief that this should be coming from the people, not the politicians, like it has in the past. And the only reason I am supporting it is because of the language that's in there saying that the commission will be elected by the people from each ward. And that was one of my strongest reasons for not voting for it in the past. If that language changes to just a bunch of people getting appointed, I don't know if I'll support it at that point. But I will support it in this current fashion that it's in now. But again, this is I am supporting it. But again, this is something that should be coming through signatures, through the people, and not us politicians, because they're the real people who are affected by this. And they did it years ago. They went out and get signatures, and they've tried in the past to get signatures, and they weren't able to get them. I'm not going to, in my 10 years on the council here, I don't think I've gotten more than a dozen calls about the charter change. And though I do agree, it does to be changed and reviewed. I will say, I will support it in the form as it is right now. I can't promise I'll support it if the language changes on section 2.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Sang.
I just wanted to thank all the constituents who've reached out to, at least for on my side, who've reached out to me about this issue. I've gotten more emails on this issue than on any single issue in the past, including during the campaign. It's been quite an effort from the people of our city. This is an issue which I was asked about when I started running for office from day one. It was one of the, in that town hall, it was one of the core issues that people did talk about. Perhaps slightly to the surprise of a few in the room, but the more we campaigned, the more we talked to voters, the more it was evident that there are quite a lot of voters who are interested in seeing our city review our charter. And who are interested, especially in the idea of ward representation, which does have its own pros and cons, which I think Councillor Scarpelli summed up very well. And these are all things that I think we can only truly effectively look at if we have a charter commission. It's just simply the best way, the best path forward that we have for our city, and to conduct a charter review in this way. This is politically the best chance that we have. It's important to me that we acknowledge that, right? Our documents, our laws, our codes have a life expectancy. They have, they do get old after a period, and they do require review. It hasn't been reviewed in my life. I'm a little bit young, but it hasn't been reviewed in the lifetimes of two of my fellow counselors, and those two counselors are older than what is usually suggested for the period of review. I think it's important that we also note that the Charter Review Commission is our best chance to also look at other foundational aspects of our city regarding who has the power to do one, who has the authority to do what. This is something that some residents have talked to me about, and I think it's important to say that tonight as well. I'm happy to support moving this into a committee of the whole, and taking the time to really do this right, to really take a deep look at this, make sure that everything in here makes sense, and that we have the support of everyone on here. There's some decisions that are so important that they do require a lot of support from our council, not just the majority vote. And I look forward to having that conversation and making sure that we are all, we all end up with something that we're happy with.
Thank you, Counselor Sang. So what I have here, if Counselor Carviallo would be so amenable, we have a motion to refer this to committee of the whole, to meet with the city administration, residents. And Counselor Carviallo, prior to that, you had an amendment to change it to the person who received the next most votes would fill any vacancy. Would you mind if we discuss that and Counselor Knight's discussion on chapter 43B at the committee of the whole? Great, so that's the motion. I'm seeing Chief of Staff Nina Nazarian, and then at this point, seeing no other comments from counselors, if members of the public would like to line up here or raise their hands on Zoom for comment. But first, Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Just a couple of pieces of information for the council as you go through your process of considering next steps on this. Just wanted to make you aware that this act was written with consultation with, of course, obviously the mayor was a part of those conversations, with legal counsel, KP Law, so that if this does get referred, which it seems it very well may, to committee of the whole, I would just recommend that the city council schedule a time which could accommodate especially Attorney Lauren Goldberg's time, as well as obviously certain members of the
Mr. President? With all due respect, this council for 3 years has been beating our chest, screaming and yelling for legal representation, and now we're getting asked to schedule our meetings around the lawyers at KP Law that we haven't been able to meet with for 2.5 years. It's a little bold.
We did have them here in our meeting earlier tonight, all due respect, and we were trying to work collaboratively on this. So that's the spirit in which I've been trying to schedule with Councilor President Morrell, anything that we're doing. Continue, Madam Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. My comments were not intended to be offensive of any sort. They're just pieces of information for the city council to consider. And also, we do have a couple of constituents who've been assisting with this process, who've been involved in this for quite some time. I'm not sure if Mr. Jim Silva is on the line today, but I know Ms. Milva McDonald is on the line, and I don't know if they have any specific comments that they'd like to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If Mr. Carroll's here, if folks who would like to speak, if folks are on Zoom and they would like to speak, if you could please use the raise hand function, and I will recognize you. First, I'll recognize Mr. Carroll. If you could just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Maury Carroll, 31 Richard Street, Medford. I just want to reiterate that some of the statements you made today. I'm strongly behind charter review. It's been so many years that, and review is just what it is. There's nothing to be changed. Nothing said it's going to be changed, but it's given the citizens of this city an opportunity to review their guidelines that they live by and how their government is. And so I don't think we're reinventing the wheel with this thing. I just believe that it's the way to go. The public has a right to have input in it, have a hand in it. I love the fact that each ward of the city would have representation to it. And as far as I know, home rule is written by the council to be put into the state house. So I think you can put all kinds of amendments in there that's possible. But I just want to let you know I support it strongly.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Milva McDonald, I'll unmute your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Milva McDonald, 61 Monument Street, West Medford. First, I'd just like to thank the council for considering this. I'm also strongly in favor, and I'd like to thank the council members who took the time to speak with me and a group of other residents that really has been working to try to get this to happen. Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli and Councilor Caraviello. As others have said, I would just be repeating, it's been a very long time since the charter has been reviewed, and this petition is just to elect a commission to look at the charter, and it will be a long, transparent process that will get the residents involved in thinking about. Our charter is basically the roadmap. It's like the constitution of our city. And it really needs to be reviewed, and I thank you for taking the time and attention to look at it, and I hope to continue to be involved. And there's a group of people who really support this and want this. So thank you.
Thank you, Milva. Any other comments from members of the public? Well, I see Madam Mayor, Brianna Longo-Kern.
Thank you, President Morrell and Bears. I just want to speak in favor. I apologize. I missed the beginning of the meeting because I was on the CPC commission meeting speaking in favor of a few projects. And I just wanted to speak in favor of this. Charter review is something that was initially offered in 2016, again in 2020, and this is the third time. And I know that Milva, Jim Silva, and a number of residents who are in support of this and who've kind of come together to make sure this moves forward has met with different counselors that are willing to meet with them. And one issue was the ward representation, which is something we will review in the charter specifically, but when it comes to the advisory commission of 9 people, I agree. I think it's a great idea, and it's something that we made sure KP Law worked with us on. We were given a few options, and this is the one we picked in hopes to get, at least a 7-0 vote is our hope, but at least a 6-1 vote, because this is being stalled in the State House because it's only been a 4-3 vote the last 2 times. My hope would be to move this forward tonight so we can get moving on it, and I think it's something we can start advocating for tomorrow. But committee of the whole is fine if that's the way you have to go. But I also have to say that KP Law has always, as well as Solicitor Scanlon, has always been willing to meet with this council. President Carviello and I in the past have worked on an agreement, and I know that's not the way the council wanted to, move forward over the last several months, but we will always make sure that you get the legal advice you need on all issues, especially the, I think, 12 ordinances that they're working on now for you. So I just wanted to voice my opinions and let you know I'm fully in favor of this, and I really hope it moves forward. It's something that this city needs, that it's been over 30 years. We desperately need this, and I will do anything to make sure it gets approved and we follow this path. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see Sheila. I will unmute you if you could give us your name and your address for the record.
I guess I'm muted. Sorry about that. Ooh. Why is
You
this
may need
like-
to mute your television.
I don't know what's going on.
We can work that out. I'm going to go next to Eileen Lerner. Name and address for the record, please, Eileen.
Eileen Lerner, 9 Adams Circle. I just wanted to say that I'm strongly in support of this measure for all the reasons that have already been brought forth. And the only thing I have to add really to the discussion is a lot of us have been distressed by different people feeling that there's so much division going on in Medford. And I think if we had a 7-0 vote, it would show that we can come together and we can work together. It would be a great symbol of possible unity in the city. And so I just want to add my strong support for charter review.
Thank you, Eileen. Next, I'm going to go to Steve Schnapp. Steve, if you could give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Schnapp. I live at 36 Hillside Ave in Medford Square. Lived in Medford since 2010. I am on the committee with Milva and others to try and see charter review happen. I'll be very brief. I want to thank the city councilors for considering this. It seems to me that every single city councilor has voiced support for the notion of a charter review. So I'm expecting one way or the other that the city council will come together, will work with the mayor if necessary, and will approve an effort to conduct a charter review and establish a commission, a charter commission, and do whatever it takes to do that. There seem to be a number of objections that some councils have raised. And I'm sure you will work through them. There are a great number of people in the city that feel that democracy is important. It is at risk in our nation right now. And what we can do to tighten our constitution, so to speak, the charter of the city of Medford, to enable all citizens to have an opportunity to be heard and to engage in the politics of the city is important. And charter review is a step to making the ability for citizens to be represented and to have an opportunity to give their opinions in the halls of government possible. So I'm very pleased that all councilors have said they're in support of reviewing the charter. I expect you will make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schnapp. I'm going to go back to Sheila. We'll see how it works, Sheila. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, this is Sheila Ahrens at 19 Sagamore Park. Sorry about that. I have no idea what was going on. I just want to just state, as other people have, that I really support the charter review. It's been many, many years, and I think it's really time to take a look at this and have a new roadmap for our city. So thank you very much for everybody's attention, and I really appreciate everybody's support.
Thank you, Sheila. Next, we'll go to David Walker. David, name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Dave Walker, 38 Brookings Street. I would just like to quickly add my voice to the chorus of voices supporting charter review, and I hope that this will receive a 7-0 vote in support, and we can send it to the state and get moving on this very important measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Any other members of the public who would like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, any other comments from counselors? Counselor Singh.
I wanted to thank all the members of the public for coming to speak to us tonight. I also wanted to note how this charter review commission is a great chance for us to tackle bigger issues as well. It's not, it's not a self-contained issue. If you read our city's climate plans, if you read our city's racial justice plans, this is a part of the evolving, this stuff like this is a part of that, talking about giving neighborhoods more power, having more local representation to bring up issues on the local level. This is all part of that as well. Communication with this, with our state delegation, talking to them, they've all, it becomes apparent how helpful it is for people to have more local representatives. So those are other reasons why I support this.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. There's one more member of the public, Marie Izzo. Please give your name and address for the record.
Hi, Marie Izzo, 29 Pilgrim Road, Medford, Mass. I'm a delegate for Ward 8, and I have yet to meet my ward colleagues. I've yet to meet one person that was against charter review. I want to share that because that feels to me like that is a majority. I've spoken to, several members on and on. It's been years of this conversation. So my hope is that, the city council takes this very seriously and unanimously votes for the review. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Seeing no other public comment, the motion on the floor from Councilor Scarpelli to refer this to committee of the whole, where we will discuss the question of how vacancies will be replaced, as well as any conflicts with Chapter 43B of Massachusetts General Law. That motion to send to committee of the whole by Councilor Scarpelli is seconded by Councilor Knight. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Carviallo.
Yes.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. That item is referred to committee of the whole.
I know that, I don't want to keep Mr. Bossie waiting. I know they've tried to reach out to both the city solicitor. Unfortunately, they're tied up with the family situation right now. So I don't want to have you sitting here wasting the rest of your evening. If we can ask the clerk to have the answer reported back to the council and have someone from the city solicitor's office on the meeting for next week so we can get this taken care of, and the answer that Councilor Knight can move forward. You can come forward if you want. Yep. Right. Okay, yep. Okay, yep.
Mr. Bazzi, name and address for the record.
Oberlin Abazi, 25 Grand Avenue, Deer, Mass.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is an existing license. Now, last year, me and Mallet, we got it together. Why I'm not getting it by myself this year? I don't understand this.
Yeah, I think it's the way that
But it's an existing business.
I know, but it's a way that the permit process, the way it goes through, it has to be asked the proper way. And the way that it was asked leaves doubt, and not anything that you did. It was.
I mean, I'm just an immigrant from Albania coming to work.
No, we don't want you to.
We don't be Irish or Italian to get this license.
Now you're out of line right now. You are way out of line.
If that's what you want, you're voting, you won't win. But I tell you what, you're out of line. I'm trying to be kind to have you understand the process. This has nothing about you or race. For you to say that, you're out of line, sir.
I'm sorry.
So I move to continue this until next meeting, have a representative from the law department to answer this question that has something simple to do with the process, has nothing to do with you or the permit. It has the process that leaves it in doubt, the way it was presented. That's all it was. Has nothing to do with the existing permit or anything moving forward. To tell you the truth, I don't think anybody in this including the question from the council who asked, that we're not going to support this. We've always supported our business owners, whether you are Italian or Irish or whatnot. But I will tell you, there's a question that if we proceed with this, Mr. Bazzi, and later we found out we made a mistake, that could affect your business and stop it then. And we don't want that. So that's the reason why. Please,
I'm sorry, it's just that it's an existing license, valid. Even now, I'm half of the license from last year. That's why it's kind of confusing, you know?
Right, no, I completely understand, but like I said.
It's not about the license, it's about the process that we need to take as a body to be sure that we're in compliance
Just
with the law.
if I may, I understand your frustration. This is a process issue. It's on, we believe it's on our end internally.
It's not you.
Nothing to do with you at all. I think this council, you know, we're gonna move this forward legally as quickly as we possibly can.
I'm doing everything right, you know?
We know you are.
We know you are.
I work very hard. I have an appetite to work, so.
We understand.
No, we're saying that, listen, when we put this out for you last week, we asked the administration to have that answer to us so we can just let you move forward today. Unfortunately, we don't know where that dropped, and we're gonna, as a council, we'll look into that, because these are the issues we have. We've been fighting with this council to have legal representation here every single night for issues like this, because this puts us in a bad way, Mr. Bazzi, and it's not you. So, and I apologize for.
I apologize too.
I will tell you, I understand you want to work, but I also don't want to approve something, then come down the line that we have to then hold your permit, and someone comes in from another department in the city and say, hey, wait a second, you can't proceed. And then that affects your business in a way negative, in a manner that will hurt you more than you think you're being hurt right now. So I apologize if you think you're being singled out or attacked in any way, but this is just a policy procedure that we have to correct, that someone made a mistake on, not you. Not you. It's somebody that should have answered this question, and you should have been gone an hour ago.
Well, we're
gonna take care of it. I will tell you, you don't have to be here next week.
Yes.
Right, Council Knight, you don't have to be here next week.
What we're gonna work to do, Mr. Abazi, if I may, councilors, what we're gonna do to work, Mr. Abazi, is we're gonna try to get an answer from the city administration to this council by Friday. When we have that answer, we'll submit it to you. And when we submit that answer to you, we'll also let you know if it's necessary for you to appear again. Probably, it seems like this is a technical error. We will get that information. We will get the answer that we need, and then we'll tell you, we will vote on it on Tuesday. You don't need to testify. You don't need to be here. I apologize for the
I
delay.
apologize too. It's just that I work so hard.
I
And
understand.
I like to work in the city. I like the city and I like you guys, don't get me wrong. It's just that, why, you know, because it's the same. I understand, I get it.
Yes, it is the universal discrimination of government and its slow processes, and I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Sure. Just give us your name and address, please.
Mark Chiavelli, 52 Mill Street, Woburn, Mass. I work with Mr. Vazzi. I'm one of the managers over at the building, and I just want to say that if he had a little outburst, please excuse his little outburst. He's been very stressed out about this, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And I've seen it over the course of the last few months, just build and build and build. So not as an excuse or anything, but he is very concerned and very worried about his business.
We want to be friends. We understand
Very
this is life and death to people. This is about their daily lives and their ability to work.
Yes, sir. And I worked for Mike Fantasia for years in that building as well, and I've just continued employment there. So
Thank you. Yes.
have a good evening, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor? Right now, we are motion to revert back to the regular order of business by Councilor Caraviallo, seconded by Councilor Collins. Mr. Clerk, on the motion, please call the roll.
Council Carviallo.
Yes.
Council Collins.
Yes.
Is it a yes?
Is it a yes?
That was a yes.
Council
Let's
Knight.
go.
Council Scarpelli.
He's temporarily out.
Counselor Singh,
Yes.
President Morrell,
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Motion passes. Let me get back to our order of business. 22-064, offered by Counselor Knight. Be it so resolved that the acting DPW commissioner report back to the council on whether the salt mix used by the city is pet friendly. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Not one of my normal resolutions that I put on, but I did get a call from a number of concerned citizens who are out walking their little pups. And they had question and concern as to whether or not the salt mix that the city was using was pet and environmentally friendly. So with that being said, I said I'll get an answer for them. And this is the approach that I'm taking to get such. So I'd ask my council colleagues to support this measure, and hopefully the answer is yes. But
Thank you.
Very pessimistic about that being the case.
About the response or the salt mix?
About the salt mix. being,
Yes.
pet friendly.
On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by.
Mr. President, if I could.
Yes, Council President Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Counselor Knight, my fellow environmentalist, for bringing this forward. As he said, this isn't just about pests, it's also about groundwater and aquaculture that can be really impacted by road salt. So I also, I don't have too much faith that we're using. It's very tricky to get salt that doesn't harm our pets and aquaculture, but I think having that information is helpful. So I support this motion and I appreciate him bringing it forward.
I personally think the solution should be that we should buy little boots for all the pets, but that's just me. Any further discussion on the motion? On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Absent briefly. Counselor Singh. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. The motion passes. 22-065, offered by Counselor Knight. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Solicitor provide the council with a draft ordinance establishing a youth commission as requested by a vote of the council in April 2021. Counselor Knight.
Did you say youth?
Youth.
Relatively self-explanatory, Mr. President. This is a resolution that was put forward and passed by the previous council unanimously 7-0 in April of 2021. At that time, this council was struggling with the effects of the pandemic. We provided a draft resolution to the solicitor's office and we asked them to craft a resolution that would fit Medford. The reason we asked for this was because of the impacts that the pandemic was having on the youth in our community, their ability to interact, the mental health pressures that they're facing. To date, we still have not seen a draft ordinance. I'm hoping this is something that we can get in short order, Mr. President. April, May, June, we're getting there, you know what I mean? It's almost a year. So with that being said, I ask my council colleagues to support the resolution.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Any further discussion? Counselor Singh.
I just wanted to thank my fellow youth counselor here.
Young environmentalist.
Yeah, young
Counselor Knight.
environmentalist for bringing this forward. This is certainly a close issue that's close to my heart. Being someone who is young in the city, I strongly believe that for our democracy to be healthy and strong, we need to be addressing the issues that young people care about. We need to give young people stake in our country, in our city as well. So totally support this and thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Any further discussion? On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Caraviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli.
This is the Youth Commission.
Oh, yes. Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. The motion passes. 22-066, offered by President Morrell. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council requests that the administration deploy temporary signage as needed, noting snow emergency parking procedures throughout the city. President Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. I had a few residents reach out to me with some confusion about the most recent storm as far as parking procedures. I do know that the city goes through great effort with our reverse 911 to put out calls about snow emergencies. There is information on the website, but people moving from other communities that do have signage around this, sometimes are at a loss. They don't see signs saying they can't park on the side of their street and then their car is gone. So I know other communities, Somerville specifically puts out some temporary signage, simple yard signs around the city indicating what side of the street to park on if your street is under a snow emergency. I know we've had success in our city with simple signage as far as around elections information that we haven't done in the past. So just seeing if this is something the administration will consider so that we can reach those residents who might not know how to get city alerts. They might be new to the city and not understand city policies, and they would like to not have their car removed surprisingly during a snowstorm. So I move approval.
Thank you, President Morrell. Any further discussion? Councilor Caraviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilman Morrell, for putting this forward. Unfortunately, our city suffers from sign pollution right now. I mean, we've got signs everywhere and everywhere. I mean, there's so many signs. I say we can't even keep up with all the signs. I don't know where we can put more signs in the city. I mean, the city goes to as many lengths. You get a reverse 911. You get a text. I mean, I don't know how much more the city can do to tell you when it's a snow emergency. I mean, usually, unless you're living in a bubble. And you're here when Boston, because of snow emergency and everyone else, usually Medford is right behind it. So again, I don't know where we're going to put this temporary signage amongst the thousands of signs. I don't know if anyone's driven down High Street, or Yale Street, signs everywhere. I mean, I don't know where we can put any more signs. And again, I understand where the president is coming from, but if I say I don't know what people want from the city other than I say that there's so many messages that go out when it's a snow emergency. So,
Mr. President, if I could.
President Morrell.
Just the thought, I mean, I think in Somerville, it's literally, they'll have a yard sign, like a lawn sign and like a rotary, a city owned property that just indicates, it's just a suggestion for the administration. There are, I did hear from people that somehow the information did not reach them. Their car was towed, something, we could look into potentially.
Any further discussion?
If I can, Mr. President.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Councilman Morrell. I think that, like I said, I worked the storm in Somerville, and I think that I'm one of the first people talk to when their cars are being towed or ticketed. So as administrator there, that's one of my duties. All the administrators are on the road working. And the signage you're talking about really is put in place after the storms, when they're going to remove the snow mounds up and down the street. The snow emergency, Somerville luckily has the blinking lights at all the storm alerts, that at all the blinking lights, all the street lights, they have a blinking white light that calls for a snow emergency for people to look at what's going on. They do a reverse 911. They do an email blast. And then the last thing they do before they get towed is actually the police officers actually traverse the streets with the tow trucks saying, please move your cars. It's under snow emergency. I think having the signs out there, if there's a way to keep it, I think that poses a couple of different concerns. One, that we're going to have DPW workers that are going to possibly working, if it's a big storm like that are going to be possibly working 24 to 36 hours. And having them go out hours early to put up signs or hours after to put up signs, I think that it really takes away from what we really need them to be doing. And I think that, maybe working with the communications department to find a way to reach those citizens that reach out to you that are not getting the notifications. But, I think the signs I don't think they'll work in our community for that fact. I just don't think we have the manpower to actually put those signs out. And then if you're talking big snow, they're probably covered within an hour anyway. So I just think that there is a way that, doing reverse 911s, letting everybody know that there's a snow emergency and what the policy is and which side to park on. Posting it on public access television on the loop, and then, sending out citywide emails that people that aren't on that. And I think a lot of people that don't get notifications, it's just because they haven't been put on the list with communications, and we've had thousands of people ask me, and all they really need to do is contact the communications department and have their names and phone numbers added to that list. And so that if there is a snow emergency, they'll get text. I work in, one of the biggest things I have, being that I work in Somerville, I get the same notifications that residents get in Somerville. So I'll get an email, I'll get a robocall, and I'll get a text message, throughout the day before a snow emergency. Once a snow emergency is going to be declared, letting me know, and I live in Medford. So I don't think this is a difficult ask. I just think that it should be, maybe a little coordinated with the communications director moving forward. So again, a little winded, but thank you for bringing it forward, though.
Just before we go to Councilor Collins, I just want to add, you can actually fill out a form on the city website to automatically sign up for those alerts. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, and thank you, President Morrell, for putting this forward. I want to concur with a lot of Councilor Scarpelli just said. And I also just want to note, I think that this is a problem that's felt differently in different neighborhoods. I live in South Medford, a renter. Most people on my street are renters. I think that this is I think that, the parking enforcement during snowstorms is felt really differently, like depending on the character of a neighborhood. A lot of my neighbors did not move their cars because they had no idea that we were having a snow emergency. I've had people reaching out to me on Twitter to ask about parking policies. And I think if people are reaching out to little old me on Twitter, it's because they have no idea where to look for that information. And I can sympathize because as a digital native, almost, as a millennial, I struggled, a couple of years ago to find where to sign up for city alerts. And I'm probably about as plugged into city stuff as anybody in my age group. So, I agree. I think this should be coordinated with, other citywide communications, because I think the need for signage, and I do think there are some neighborhoods where it would be, kind of the only thing that people see about it, shows that we have a pretty big communication gap in our city for alerts like this in general.
But maybe you're looking at the portable digital sign posted in strategic areas that don't really get the information they need. But I think the signage itself, I just don't see that working, and so I agree with you. Every which way we can to help to get the word out.
Yeah, just as one counselor, this language is pretty open. I was actually thinking when this was going up, it would be more like, when we had the Craddock Bridge project, we had the traffic sign that said, go here, go there, go everywhere, for a while. And in addition, we have these SUFA boards in major squares. Those could go up. Those are, tall and generally, at least most of the time, over the height of the, the billboards as well. So, because I do think there's a gap where new residents, don't know the procedures and the rules. And the real issue that I've seen is that, we have a lot of signage on most of our streets. This is not one of the things that's signed on those streets. So if someone parks on the street, then they look up at the sign next to their street, this isn't on there. So that's kind of, and I'm not saying we should go replace 10,000 signs on every block, because we know that what kind of project that would be. But, if we get kind of some temporary solutions in, and then maybe as well, going forward, if we're redoing a street, look at the signage on that street. That might help. Councilor Singh.
From what I'm hearing, I think everyone is bring up good points. There are accessibility problems, and then there, we can look to other cities, and I think we have to think about, how spread out our resources are, especially during a snow emergency as well. Perhaps it would be good to amend this by asking the city administration just generally explore temporary and permanent solutions for addressing communication gaps during snow emergencies. That way we can also kind of explore options outside of just signage.
Sorry, generally explore temporary and permanent solutions to close communication gaps regarding snow emergencies. President Morrell, is that amendment acceptable?
Yes, that would be great.
Any further discussion?
If I may, Mr. President.
Yes,
I'd
Councilor.
like to make a public service announcement. If there's gonna be 2 feet of snow, there's gonna be a snow emergency, all right? So temporary signs, we don't need them. If 2 feet of snow's coming, we're gonna be in a snow emergency.
Now,
You know,
here's a riddle.
that goes without saying.
Here's a riddle for you, Counselor Knight. If it's December 2020, is it even parking or odd?
Even, December, even.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
winter's
see, 'cause I
December.
don't
Winter
even
starts in December, man. Don't you live here?
I live on a DCR. I live on a DCR road.
But ultimately, there's one thing I think that a lot of people don't do anymore. And it's this crazy thing. They pick up the phone and they call somebody and they ask a question, right? Like call the police department and say, is it a snow emergency? And what side of the street am I supposed to park on, right? A lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone these days and call. But we have great resources here in the city of Medford. The police department staff 24 hours a day. We have somebody at the police department that's in dispatch that can always answer a question if anybody has a question about where I went to park. And we also have the night watchman. The night watchman in the DPW is also available to address questions and concerns like that. So there are resources out there for individuals in this community that have questions about where to park during snow emergencies. The DPWs during snow emergencies is operating 24 hours a day. So there's always someone that's available there to answer a call and answer a question. So with that being said, I hope that the individuals out there in the community that are having such difficulty figuring out where to park, also take advantage of some of these old fashioned resources, like not signing up for alerts, but picking up the phone and asking the question, because that gets you the same answer.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. And, if anyone from DCR is listening, please turn your plows to the left on Fellsway West.
Where you're going east on Fellsway West, turn your plows to the left.
Just right between 621 and 629, that would be. Counselor Carviallo? It looks like Ms. Cataldo. I actually have Mr. Castanetti first, then we'll go to Ms. Cataldo. Mr. Castanetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Andrew from East Smith. I'll be very brief. Councilor Morel brings up some good points. I wouldn't want anyone to get told, unless they're in front of my driveway or they're causing problems near where I have to navigate with my vehicles. On the other hand, signage, as Councilor Carviallo stated, that we get enough signs. It's more than sign pollution, it's sign confusion also. And the ex-chief Leo Sacco used to say, we have too many signs in this city. I don't want to add any more. So I guess the song says, signs, everywhere is signs. Don't do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign? However, we need solutions. You already have a few that work for me and some of my neighbors, and actually there were absentee owner tenants. And I was impressed that they paid attention, being absentee tenants, so to speak. So you do the reverse 911, and I guess you do an email, I understand this evening. The only other solution I can come up with is maybe get a Times Square billboard in the middle of the square. But you're still never going to satisfy all the people at any time. I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Castanetti. Kelly Cataldo, name and address for the record, please.
Kelly Cataldo, 46 Otis Street in Medford. President Morel, I totally understand what you're saying about the signs, but this community had a big upheaval about 7 or 8 years ago because there were signs on every corner. And there was a huge push to get rid of a lot of signs. There's so many signs in Medford Square that people don't know which way to go. And at some point, they all become blind. I know myself as a realtor in the community, I'm really, cognizant about telling people, make sure you sign up for the reverse 911. I know the city has their new Welcome to Medford program. Maybe there could be more outreach on that. Maybe it could go on the literature that gets delivered to every household in regards to the trash and the recycling and the calendar. Maybe it could go there. But I don't think adding more signs is going to help. People will always say, well, I didn't see the sign. If you care to know something, then you find out. Every community has a reverse 911. So it doesn't matter what city they go to, they're being told you should go to the city website and you should register for the 911. And hopefully that will help. And there's always going to be something that somebody's going to want for another sign. But it's at some point it was just too much. We were so overrun with them. So I personally would like to see better communication in other venues and a lot less signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cataldo. Seeing no further, Aha, seeing no further discussion on the motion of President Morrell, seconded by Counselor Singh, as amended by Counselor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. The motion passes. 22-067, offered by President Morrell. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council send a letter to the Massachusetts Gaming Commission Chair, Kathy Judstein, calling for the rejection of the proposed 1,800-seat entertainment venue connection to the Encore Casino. President Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since I submitted this, Encore has since walked back their proposal for this entertainment venue. They are looking at a less than 1,000 seat venue. But since Councilor Carviallo brought this forward to I believe Councilor Carviallo, or he's been doing work on this, brought this forward to the council, Encore has changed their plans a number of times. So I do think there is still merit to sending a letter. Resident Ken Kraus, who's also been working on this, mentioned that he supports us coming out and just basically stating that the city of Medford, or the council rather, is against when presenting live entertainment anywhere within its gaming establishment unless they're under 1,000 seats or over 3,500 seats. And again, the reason for this would be anything outside of this would be in direct violation of the community surrounding community agreement that was entered into. So just stating as a council and going in line with the administration, who sent a similar letter, that we are against any proposed entertainment venue that would violate the terms that were agreed to many years ago as far as the number of seats, and would do harm to local smaller venues such as the Chevalier.
Thank you, President Morrell. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, President Morrell, for bringing this forward. As you said, this has been changed to a 1,000-seat arena. And I want to thank Kinga for the great story she did in today's paper in regards to this. But, the fact still remains the same. They're still putting in a venue to do entertainment, along with the 3,800-seat ballroom that they've used in the past for entertainment. So again, this is nothing but another backdoor way of getting entertainment into the building. And, Medford, Lynn, Cabot, all these small venues all vow for the same entertainers. And again, they don't have the deep pockets that Encore has to hire somebody for an exorbitant price and pay them that we can't afford to, because they'll make up the shortfall on the gaming. So again, the playing field still isn't level for this. And again, I've reached out to our whole delegation on this, and I know they've all spoken to the gaming commission on this. But and like I say, at the end of the day, all it is another backdoor attempt to bring entertainment into their building under the guise of giving it away for free to the players. And like I said, like we saw last time, that when they used that, conveniently, all the tickets were up for sale on Ticketmaster for shows that were supposedly for free. So again, same as Kinga put in the paper, shame on the gaming commission if they can't see through the sham that Encore is trying to put through here. So, and again, I'll support whatever letter. I think we've all sent letters. But again, I think it's there's a meeting. I think the meeting is on Thursday. So even if we send a letter, I don't think it's going to get there in time. If I'm not mistaken, I think the meeting's on the 10th. Thursday's the 10th, correct? I think it was the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, but like I said, I don't know if we can get a letter to them quick enough to even do this. But again, it's all it is, they say, it's another backdoor attempt to hurt the communities and violate the spirit of the agreement that maybe, a lot of you people weren't around when John Taco came around to the communities and gave everybody the big spiel how great this casino is going to be and all the benefits for the community and all the good things they're going to do for this community. They were going to use local vendors. At the end of the day, Encore did crap. for everybody. So I'm not, I say, I don't know what to say on this. They're not good neighbors to anybody.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, and thank you, President Morrell, for putting this forward. I'd certainly second your motion for approval if there's devotion already. I think that it's a good idea to put this forward, regardless of the recent change in the proposal, as articulated by counselors already. The plan has changed. I think it's a good idea for us to say in one voice as a council, we need to stand up for the spirit of the community benefits agreement that Wynn entered into. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. On the motion of Counselor Collins to approve, seconded by, if I may. Yes, Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Knight.
Mr. President, I think if my memory serves me correctly, this paper was put on and the council voted to request that the mayor write a letter to the gaming commission. The mayor wrote a letter to the gaming commission, reported back to the council that she wrote a letter to the gaming commission and suggested that we do so as well. If we're going to send a letter to the gaming commission, after we just directed the mayor to send a letter to the gaming commission, I think we need to be sure that we're consistent in our message. If we look at our agenda this evening, we want to send letters to every member of the state house, the speaker, the Senate president, every member of our state delegation. We want to send letters to the Mass Gaming Commission over here. We're like letter writing nuts right now, Mr. President. At the end of the day, we need to have a concise and consistent message. It should be delivered as a city, not as one body in the city, this body in the city. We need to take a look at what the mayor wrote and craft a letter that shows some consistency so that we're not asking for two different things. I think that's very important. All right, if we're going to be sending letters to places, we need to be sure that our game is tight and that what we're asking for is what we're asking for. It's not for the cameras, it's for the policy. It's not for the politics. All right, I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to, Mr. President. I think that, if we're going to be asking the gaming commission to take a stand, the stand that we're asking them to take can't be a stand of the city council. It can't be a stand of the administration. It has to be a stand of the city of Medford. Stand of all of us together, unified. So with that being said, I have no problem sending a letter. I just wish that we could probably work with the administration a little bit more cooperatively in addressing large issues like this that are impacting our community, especially when the mayor's action came at the directive of the council in the first place. So with that being said, I support the intent of the paper. But I just want to be sure that what we're sending is a message of consistency.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Mr. President. On another note pertaining to this, there was a motion to supply some funding for attorney fees. Where are we with that?
We have not received, to my knowledge, unless the clerk has information otherwise, an appropriation request from the mayor's office.
I don't think the mayor has to even ask us. I think the mayor has the authority to do that on her own without even asking. I mean,
that may be possible. I just,
and I say,
we can't do it on our own. That's
yeah,
all
but I think the mayor can do that on her own without even asking us. And it was a good gesture for her to do that. And I would hope that it gets done. Again, people don't realize that that Mr. Bloomwright is on the end of one of his extensions here. And I'd hate to have the gentleman say, hey, I'm not getting any support from the community and not renew. So again, this is a big part of our downtown area. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed quick. I mean, again, they're going to be making a decision on this week, or very close to it. And we don't have a seat at that table, which is really disappointing to me.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. On the matter of the appropriation, I don't think anyone in this, well, I'll speak for myself. I was certainly not opposed to adding money to that pot, but I just believe procedurally, if it was going to come before us, it has to come from the mayor as an appropriation. If she can do it herself, that's another matter, but I certainly know we can't initiate that process. She seems to have stepped out. On the motion of Councilor Collins, seconded by Councilor Carviallo to approve. Any other discussion? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight. Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Sang. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion passes. 22-068, offered by Councilor Sang. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council asks the city city administration and the Office of Planning, Sustainability and Development to study and reach out to potential locations for public art projects like murals and to publish these locations on the city website. These locations should also keep in mind potential problems of equity, gentrification, and access. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Council asks the city administration and the Office of Planning, Sustainability and Development to create online and physical forms where members of the community and business owners can express their interest in taking part in public arts projects. Councilor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. President. This came out of talking with members of the Medford Arts Council and listening to their updates about plans for potential public arts projects coming into the city. It can be very difficult for artists to participate, in the civic art landscape of our city. And I thought that this would be one small step in helping expedite the process of creating more public arts projects and helping us plan the visual aesthetic qualities of our neighborhoods, to get community feedback, to expedite that process as well. So we have a sense of what our residents actually want our neighborhoods and our business districts to look like. And I thought that this would be a good way to get greater involve the members of our communities, from residents to business owners, to a greater extent. I think this is also a measure of transparency. By publishing on the city website, we, I think, make ourselves more more palatable and more open options for artists in our community and in the greater Boston area. By having both online and physical forms, I think this would create a greater accessibility and help expedite the process quicker. I also added one line in there about equity, gentrification, access, because I did want to note that many of these art projects do add to the effects of gentrification. And so I'm curious as to how the city would also seek to address these problems as well.
On the motion of Councilor Singh, seconded by Councilor Knight. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, Councilor Collins.
I'll be brief, but, as a person who in my other working. I'm sorry? What was that?
You said thank you.
Oh, wait, is that a rule?
No. As an artist, I believe he meant.
Well, you made me lose my train of thought. I was going to say, thank you, Councilor Knight. As a person who does public art professionally, I thank Councilor Singh for bringing this forward. And I agree, from my own experience and from talking to other people in the field, public art can really seem like a black box to people, amateur artists, professionals who are trying to get into the field. I also think that with so many other things, equity is a huge issue in the public art field. So, anything that we can do to further our efforts to be transparent about the process can help more people in the community both take on these opportunities and also weigh in on what kind of public art we want to see in our community and where. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. On the motion of Councilor Singh, seconded by Councilor Knight, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Carviallo.
Yes.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes. 7 is the negative motion passes.
Thank you. 22069, offered by Vice President Bears, be it resolved that Medford City Council, that ordinance 854, section, I don't know what, general and operational provisions be, operational provisions be amended to add the following. F, employment plan. An applicant for a special permit pursuant to this ordinance shall submit an employment plan. The plan shall include a labor peace agreement with a bona fide labor organization affiliated with the AFL-CIO that already represents cannabis workers. Letters of support from labor unions, union members living in the community, the Greater Boston Labor Council, the state AFL-CIO, and the project labor agreement be in place with building trades for the construction of retrofitting a cannabis facility.
Thank you, Mr. President. Whereas this would be an amendment to the marijuana zoning ordinance, my preference here, the intent of this ordinance is to ensure that both the construction and staffing of marijuana establishments here in our community, whether they are dispensaries or they are, many of the other variety of marijuana companies that may come here are providing good union jobs that are providing good wages to the people of our community. Whereas this was a change to our zoning, I would like to motion to join this with paper 20-568 and refer it to committee of the whole to get information, to discuss this maybe after we discuss the community development board recommendations tomorrow, to discuss this with Attorney Bobrowski and see if this is a potential way forward to ensure supportive labor in the marijuana industry here in Medford. And I also know after discussion with my fellow counselors, there is Mr. Gabriel Camacho, representative of UFCW Local 1445, is with us on Zoom.
Yes, Colin?
Mr. President, I certainly support the theory of the measure. and
Councilor Knight.
I certainly support the measure. It's something that's very interesting. I question whether or not it needs to be reviewed by the solicitor or whether this came from legal counsel. Maybe the sponsor of the resolution can offer that this has been worked on through legal counsel of some shape or form, maybe with UFCW or.
The provisions were, I can't speak for the UFCW, maybe if Mr. Camacho is on the line, if he could discuss whether this came from council or not. I would like to have it reviewed at least by Attorney Bobrowski as well, just to, I think our marijuana ordinance with the zoning ordinance piece and also the separate cannabis advisory committee piece, it may be a unique structure compared to other communities. So is Mr. Camacho on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Camacho, name and address for the record, please.
Gabriel Camacho, 243 Boylston Street in Watertown. I am the political director for United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445. We have members who live in Medford, and we represent approximately 12,000 essential workers throughout the Commonwealth. Most recently, we've been organizing in the cannabis sector, both in grow facilities, medical dispensaries, and recreational adult use dispensaries. There are a number of amendments to cannabis ordinances that have been introduced in various municipalities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as state law in New Jersey, California, Colorado, New York, that as a condition of licensure, that a labor peace agreement be in place with a union that represents cannabis workers in order to have that license given, as well as to renew a license. The language of our ordinances and our state bill that just made it out of committee actually last week has been reviewed by council, and we are confident that this will pass legal muster in Medford. We also think this is very important because, as you know, the cannabis industry last year reached over $2 billion in gross revenues in Massachusetts, and it is a relatively new industry in Massachusetts. So we need to get this industry right. Even though it is a growing industry, the Attorney General has fined cannabis companies hundreds of thousands of dollars for violations of labor law in the state. So that would never happen if a labor peace agreement or indeed a collective bargaining agreement was in place between a union and a cannabis company.
Thank you, sir.
I will take your questions.
Any further questions?
Mr. President, that highlights some of the questions that I had. It's certainly an interesting theory that the council can tie licensure requirements to union membership. It's very interesting. I don't think.
Excuse me, let me just clarify, not union membership, to have a labor peace agreement in place. A labor peace agreement is basically an agreement between an employer and a union in which the employer agrees to remain neutral during an organizing drive and the union in turn agrees not to take any adverse labor actions against the company or disparage it publicly. So basically, it allows the employees to decide whether to unionize or not without any undue interference from the employer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, what I was referring to wasn't the peace agreement, but rather the requirement that a project labor agreement be in place.
Okay, very well.
Yeah. Thanks. So, I mean, Mr. Camacho, I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I came from the unions. I worked at SAU for a number of years. I negotiated over 40 contracts. I represented, I don't know, close to 12,000 employees between Worcester and Essex County and, Suffolk County and Middlesex County. So I've certainly been familiar with the union world, and it's something that I certainly want to support. But like Councilor Beer said, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And if you, like the way you said it, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. So I just want to make sure that we don't get challenged. We're in a process right now where it's taken we're probably the slowest community in all of the world to license a marijuana facility in Massachusetts. And we've gotten this far, and I'd hate to see the process stalled. The administration's done a great job at doing that already. So with that being said, I certainly support this. I support working families, and I always will. If you don't know what you stand for, then you can't stand for anything. This is certainly something that I stand for. I stand for good wages. I stand for health benefits and retirement benefits for workers. I stand for a living wage. I think that these are things that bring our community up, right? If we have good wages in the community, then people can spend their ancillary money in the circular flow of our economy. The discretionary funds go back into our economy. It's a good thing. So with that being said, I support this wholeheartedly, and I have no problem seconding the motion by the council.
Thank you. Councilor Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Knight. Yeah, and I really want to thank Mr. Camacho and UFCW Local 1445. I know that I have some friends who've worked in the industry. Their place of employment was able to unionize with UFCW Local 1445, and they have a much improved standard of working conditions, and they're much happier in their positions. So my hope is that we can make sure that that is how the industry works here in Medford as well. With Councilor Knight's second, happy to move forward.
And I just have an opinion. I don't have a problem supporting this. I do have a problem with it only because we've already gone through the process, and I'm not big on changing the rules after the game has already started. That's where I have an issue. Again, I don't oppose this. I think we need a legal opinion that we can do this after these people have already interviewed and put their licenses in. So
yes,
I just want to make sure that we're on solid ground here before we go further. So I'd like to amend it that we get a legal opinion, making sure that we're okay doing this.
For sure, and I'm hoping that Attorney Bobrowski will review it as well as Solicitor Scanlon.
And I mean, because it's a zoning paper, Mr. President, and we have a zoning codification issue that's coming up. It doesn't have to be part of the codification. It can go through as an amendment to the existing zoning ordinance for the cannabis, for the cannabis licensure, right? It can go through the process itself. If in fact we have to do it that way, we don't have to tie it to the recodification and blow that thing up. You know what I mean? As we're going through the process, because we're at the the 10-yard line.
I would have no issue with the future motion to sever this. I just felt, given that I feel like it's
the consultant there, yeah.
Right. Given that it's in the spirit of the council, given that we're already having the meeting with the attorney, and given that, we have the ability to amend the resolution.
Yeah. And this is not on tomorrow night's agenda either.
Well, my motion was to join it with paper 20-568, which is on.
Which one is that?
That's the paper we're using for zoning recodification. So my motion was to send this to committee of the whole and join it with 20-568.
I don't know. I say that's, again, you're joining it the day before the paper goes out on the floor.
Well, I mean, to be frank, I think given.
I think we should get to the committee of the whole first, or whatever you want to do with it.
Given the paper, I mean, to be honest, given that it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance, I would feel comfortable bringing the text tomorrow night to discuss under the zoning recodification. So if we refer it to committee of the whole, I was putting this on so we could have the discussion tonight and have it in open council. And also have the ability to sever it in the future. But I also think it is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, where tomorrow night we're discussing amendments to the zoning ordinance. We haven't, for example, when we were doing committees of the whole in last year, we weren't saying we're only discussing this section tonight and this section tonight and this section tonight. It was the full zoning ordinance. So, that's, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get around anything here.
I know, first, I just want to make sure we're on legal, we've got.
Mr. President,
Before we get ourselves in trouble. President Morrell.
thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I understand the intention of this. I am with the other councils on having a separate committee of the whole simply because the zoning meeting, the committee of the whole tomorrow is to review the CD board's recommendations. And since this is outside of it, it doesn't feel like we have the proper agenda notice time for such a topic. That would be my opinion on this. So like other issues tonight, I just want to make sure we're doing this the right way so we don't get caught not being able to do what we're intending to do here.
If President Morrell's right, I agree with President Morrell on this.
If we were to, if we were to review the meeting notice for tomorrow evening, let's say paper 20-568 zoning recodification, and reviewing amendments to the zoning ordinance, I think that this would fall under that posting. So, I'm happy to refer it to committee of the whole, not join it with the other paper. If we want to have another meeting on it in the future, I'm still going to bring it up tomorrow night, whether or not, that's just what I'm going to do in the committee of the whole meeting either way. So I think it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance and we're discussing amendments to the zoning ordinance.
I'm gonna agree with the president that we're dealing with the recommendations from the board.
That's fine. That's coming up.
No, Council Knight.
Well, here's the thing, Mr. If we're gonna have a motion to join it, right? And then we vote on the motion to join it, and then the motion goes down, you really can't bring it up.
No, I'm saying.
You can't bring it up at the meeting. If we're voting on joining it at the meeting.
We'll
we all
send the
say no,
motion.
then you can't.
We'll have two different votes. We'll have one to join it.
No motion to join, just motion to send this to committee of the whole as it is.
All right, so you just want to send it to
Withdraw it and
me
bring it up if
for
you
a
want.
legal
You
opinion?
can't have us vote on it and then bring it up again, right? If you.
Right, I'm not,
And
If it goes down, I'm gonna vote for it. I'm voting yes. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Council Bears, if you could amend it to have a legal opinion ready for when we have the committee of the whole, would be great. So we don't have to have a committee of the whole, then ask for a legal opinion too.
sure, yeah, I mean,
This way the opinion will be out. We'll have the opinion.
Well, why don't we amend the paper to ask for a legal opinion on this language right here? To send it to the solicitor now, she'll get that back to us.
that's fine, yeah,
That's right. That's
that's
what I'm asking
fine.
for.
Well, so, okay, here's my question. To be honest, my goal here was not to have an entirely separate committee of the whole meeting because it's one amendment in the context of many amendments. I don't think it needs an hour and a half of a meeting. So I'm happy to refer it, either to keep it, table it here pending a legal opinion, and then we could discuss it when the public hearing reopens on the zoning recodification. Happy to refer it to committee of the whole and then have it,
It's your
I'm gonna motion to accept your amendment to have a legal opinion, and then table it on the council agenda pending that legal
So-
opinion.
On the motion by Councilor Bears to table this until we have a legal opinion, seconded by Councilor Collins.
One major question. What's the question we're asking the solicitor?
The question would be the legality of changing the agreement that we already have in place.
We need to ask her a question. If we want the solicitor to give us a legal opinion, we need to ask the city.
My
solicitor a
question would be that we ask that the city solicitor and attorney Bobrowski both render an opinion as to whether this is permissible under Massachusetts zoning laws. And then secondly, if, what you were saying, Counselor Carviallo, a motion to have a legal opinion from the city solicitor as to whether this affects ongoing negotiations with applicants to the city.
Thank you.
And again,
Hold on 1 second. Give him a second. Mr.
That's
Second
not,
part.
that second part's not a legal question. That's an operational question.
I have the request for the legal opinion from Attorney Bobrowski and Solicitor Scanlon, asking whether this is legal under zoning law, but then I didn't get the second part.
the second one is just Counselor Carviallo's concern as to.
That if this is legal, where the license, all these people have already gone through the licensing process.
Right, and again, the intent here is this would apply.
And again, I don't have problems supporting it, just.
No, I know.
I just want to make sure we didn't change the rules, halfway into the game for these other people that have already done their license process.
I just want to be clear, the reason that I put it under the zoning ordinance is because that's referring to host community agreements. Right now, there's only one host community agreement being negotiated, so it may apply to the dispensaries. But the other thing here is that this could apply to the non-dispensary projects, which there are many marijuana businesses that we are allowing, I believe, at least under a less restrictive process than the dispensary process.
So, on the motion by Councilor Bears as amended,
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Knight. Further discussion?
Move forward.
Discuss Knight, do you want to speak?
I want to thank Councilor Beers for bringing up higher pay for the cannabis industry, especially with 3 entities soon, hopefully, to be opened in Medford. And who knows what other type of cannabis entities might also open down the road. I want to thank you for that, because I'm sure it's a very lucrative business, especially with only 3 in the city at this point coming. Unless there's too much competition, that might affect the profitability, of course. But I'm interested in Mr. Camucho, if he's still there. I'd like to make a point that I believe he said that some of these cannabis owners have paid fines under unfair labor practices with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Is that true?
Yes, this is Gabriel Camacho. A number of months ago, the Attorney General issued a press release talking, issuing a report that the cannabis industry is engaged in violations of state labor law, in particular, wage, hour, and premium pay during holidays. So that's why certain cannabis companies have been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars by the state of Massachusetts for violations of these laws.
I see. Do you know if this company that has entered as one of the 9 proposals for Medford on Mystic Avenue, I believe the address was like 142 or 144 Mystic Avenue, to the right of Atlas Liquors? Do you know if they've been fined by the state government?
No, they haven't.
What's the name of that company, sir?
This gentleman works for the UFCW as a representative of labor organization. He's not an entity with the city.
There's 9 companies that applied for a license here. We're not going to single out
I see.
particular companies.
Do you know the name of that company, Mr. Camucho?
It's public record under the Attorney General's office.
I see.
Wage and hour division.
Okay. And do you know if any of the 9 applicants have violated the state law?
I am not familiar with all the applicants in Medford, sir.
The gentleman is a representative of a labor organization. He's not a representative of the community. He probably doesn't even know who has applied here in the city of Medford because he doesn't work for our community.
Yeah, again, these questions on for this gentleman.
Okay, I'm sorry to trouble you with questions that you don't know about. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So on the motion by Councilor Bears is amended, seconded by Councilor Knight.
Motion to table. Is the motion.
Table.
Just want to make sure.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Carviallo, I'm sorry. No?
Yes.
Vice President Bears, you're first.
Yes.
Councilor Collins,
Yes.
Councilor Knight. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Councilor Carviallo.
Yes. 17 affirmative, motion passes. 22070, offered by Vice President Bears, be it resolved, the Medford City Council expresses its support of House Bill 3080 and Senate Bill 1874, an act relative to payments in lieu of taxation by organizations exempt from property tax. Be it further resolved that the city of Medford expresses support of House Bill 3803, an act establishing a study to examine lost real estate tax revenue. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Council expresses support of House Bill 2137, an act granting the city of Medford the authority to require the adoption of an institutional master plan subject to the review and approval by the municipality. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Clerk forward a copy of this resolution to the Medford Legislative Delegation, as well as House Speaker Mariano and Senate President Spilka. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Mr. President. These bills are all on a similar topic, which is the accountability of large tax exempt institutions to municipalities here in the Commonwealth. The first bill is H3080 and S1874. are regarding allowing local municipalities to set up a regulatory framework and require that large tax exempt institutions with values over $15 million, excluding religious institutions, can be required to pay up to 25% of what they would otherwise pay in property taxes. The second bill, H 3803, would have, I believe, the Department of Revenue study and examine, or maybe the Division of Local Services, examine how much municipal tax revenue is lost every year to large tax exempt institutions. And the third bill is something this council has already voted through as a home rule petition, but still has not passed due to the objection of, ACOM and the private college and university lobby, which is requiring an institutional master plan from Tufts University. So these three bills, again, I believe all three of them survived Joint Rule 10 day and have extensions in their committees. So it would be great if the state would allow us to, over the objections of these, very high paid lobbyists for these large private institutions, allow cities and towns to adequately plan for and regulate and cooperate and collaborate with large tax exempt institutions like large universities and hospital systems.
Thank you. Council Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move to approve this measure. I was pleased to testify in favor of H 3080 a couple of weeks ago. I think it's an extremely important set of bills. They just provide a local option for municipalities to receive a more fair compensation rate from their large resident nonprofits, as we're all, very aware. Municipalities bear a very heavy governmental load for the amount of resources that they're able to command. And these bills would help straighten our city and municipalities like ours by providing a framework for wealthy resident nonprofits to pay their fair share. So I think it would be a great idea for this council to send a strong message to the state delegation of, what an asset this framework would be to communities like ours. Thank you.
Thank you. So any further discussion? Excuse me, sir, did you want to speak?
Yes.
Name and address to the record, please.
William Navarre, 108 Medford Street, apartment 1B. This issue comes up periodically. The last time it did, I didn't have my act together with comments when it was discussed in council, but I did send an email. And so I thought I'd sort of repeat a summary of that email. The pilot issue comes back up periodically, and I think we should begin with the principle that we want our nonprofits to be vibrant institutions doing as much useful work as possible. But at the same time, we don't want them buying up the whole city and crowding out everyone else. We want them to invest in the equipment and buildings they need to fulfill their tax exempt purposes, and we want them to provide housing and jobs. But when the nonprofit owns land, they deny others the opportunity to do so. This is particularly a problem if the nonprofit is using the land to provide less housing or fewer jobs than someone else might. If we want to raise funds from our nonprofits, let's tax their lands and leave their buildings untaxed. Nonprofits should not have the power to take the land off our tax rolls, but nor should we propose to levy a tax on the buildings that they need to do their work. It's clear to me that this is the best way to reconcile the different interests of all involved. I hope the city council will agree. I hope someday our legislators will agree and get an option like that passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
If I may.
Vice President Bass.
William, I hadn't actually thought about it this way before, but the way that this is structured, it would be a maximum of 25% on what they would otherwise pay in property taxes. Now, looking at the city's, tax classifications, that's probably less than what the split is between land and buildings, but it is kind of similarly,
It's a similar idea,
Yeah.
but it changes the incentives.
Right.
Because sometimes the universities buy up land decades before they need it and let it sit idle, not generating any tax revenue, not generating any housing during a housing crisis, not generating any jobs, and we want to discourage that. Meanwhile, we have a housing crisis, there are not enough dorms. We shouldn't tax them when they build a dorm, but we should tax them when they gobble up more land.
Thank you. So on the motion by Vice President Beers.
Mr. President,
Council Morrell.
I do see Eric Von Berg has his hand up as well on Zoom. I can unmute him.
Mr. Von Berg, name and address for the record, please.
Eric Von Berg, 369 High Street, Medford. Good evening, President, Vice President, members of City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm the co-chair of the Medford Somerville Pilot Working Group. For too long, cities and towns in Massachusetts have been deprived of any tax revenue from large nonprofits because they are tax exempt. These tax exempt nonprofits conduct their business in many ways as for-profit businesses doing research for-profit corporations under the guise of education, and then sharing in the profits of that research, all the while doing this on untaxed land in untaxed buildings while using local police, fire, and DPW services. They expand into the community by buying up housing that borders their land, taking that housing off the tax rolls, shrinking the tax base, and driving up the cost of real estate in these communities. In Medford, we have constant battles with Tufts University to keep them from doing this to expand their footprint in our city. We are left to deal with housing shortages and extremely high real estate prices, which keeps many residents of our city from being able to live in Medford because it has become unaffordable. We've lost ER services in Lawrence Memorial Hospital because of changes that the nonprofit that owns it made, while they seem to be more interested in establishing for-profit entities within their nonprofit. There are too many loopholes in the tax exempt status of these nonprofits, and there's no recourse because it is illegal to tax these institutions. Even when there are agreements reached with these institutions, they are not binding and may be not be honored at any point. Harvard Vanguard Health decided last year to stop paying their pilot to the city. Cities and towns with large nonprofits end up losing untold revenue that they need and absolutely deserve because of our current tax structure for nonprofits. We need the ability to legally recoup this lost revenue in our cities. H 3080 and S 1874 are steps in the right direction. These bills will give communities the ability to require nonprofits with property valued at $15 million or more to pay 25% of the amount that would be paid if the property were not exempt from taxation. In terms of financial planning and city planning in general, H 3803 will help communities to be aware of how much revenue they are losing to large nonprofits. And H 2137 will give the city permission to require large nonprofits to share their institutional master plans for review by the city in order to determine how these institutions impact the land and life in our city. I urge the City Council to vote in favor of Resolution 22070 to support the passage of these bills at the state level. Thank you for the chance to speak on these matters.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. On the motion by Vice President Beers.
If I may, Mr. President,
Councilor Knight.
I would just like to reiterate my concern that this council's focus should be on the items that fall within its purview and control. We have a very, very responsible, receptive, and capable state delegation. A very, very capable state delegation. We're not the House of Representatives. We're not the Massachusetts Senate. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of bills are introduced every day in both bodies. If this council is going to sit here and spend our time weeding through those bills and not doing the job that we're doing something wrong. We're elected to do the city's business. This is State House talk. For this reason and this reason alone, I'm not going to support this measure tonight, Mr. President. Week in and week out, it's send a letter to Karen Spilka, send a letter to Ron Mariano, send a letter to Karen Spilka, send a letter to Ron Mariano. Enough's enough. They're going to think we're lunatics. Every other week, they're getting a letter from the Medford City Council saying Medford wants this now, Medford wants that now, Medford wants this now. This guy in Medford, you know what I want? More money. There's one paper on this agenda this evening that I will support. A paper asking for an increase in House Fund funds to this community. I will support that paper. But as for us continuously, week in and week out, supporting this piece of legislation, that piece of legislation, this piece of legislation at the State House, it's not moving this council forward. It's not moving this city forward. It's moving an agenda forward, but it's not moving us forward. So for that reason, Mr. President,
Let the State House do let the state representatives do their job.
Well, if they let us do our job, I wouldn't be filing these resolutions.
So on the motion by Vice President Beers, seconded by Councilor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli.
Present.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Present. Four in the affirmative, one in the negative, two present. Motion passes. Thank you. You did, I did.
I remember, probably like my third meeting, I tried to go present on something. I got told I couldn't. Oh, 22-071 offered by Counselor Collins, whereas the governor's fiscal year 2023 state budget proposal includes a 2.7% increase in unrestricted general government aid. And whereas this modest increase in local aid is disproportionate to the dramatic forecasted increase in 2023 state tax collections, 22% increase from original FY22 base and 7.3% increase from calculation of base used to create the FY22 budget. And whereas municipalities such as ours rely on state revenue sharing to balance local budgets and fund essential services, and as we contend with the ongoing pandemic recovery in the midst of economic inflation, these resources are needed as acutely as ever. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council expresses support for a higher level of unrestricted general government aid in the fiscal year 2023 state budget. Be it further resolved that the city clerk forward a copy of this resolution to the Medford Legislative Delegation, as well as Senate President Spilka and House Speaker Mariano. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as enthusiastic readers of the Massachusetts Municipal Association weekly newsletter already know, we are predicted to have a huge uptick in state tax collections for the upcoming fiscal year compared to the current one. It's a particularly dramatic increase compared to original projections for the fiscal year 2022 tax collections forecast. And even if you only consider the calculation of the tax base that was used to actually create the fiscal year 2022 state budget, it's still over a 7% increase from that number. Meanwhile, the level of state aid afforded to municipalities barely keeps pace with inflation. Again, I want to note, how the past couple of years have highlighted just how much responsibility for policy and governance rests at the most local level of governance, particularly when it comes to public health, resiliency, roads, environmental maintenance, really essential services that we need to not only maintain, but actually expand if we're going to do right by our community and our residents. So I hope that ours and other municipalities can successfully communicate to our state leaders the need to increase the level of local aid in next year's state budget. I hope that other municipalities will join with ours, hopefully, in advocating for this. And I respectfully ask for my fellow counselors' support in, advocating this to our state leaders. Thank you.
Motion of Counselor Collins, seconded by Counselor Knight. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo.
Voting yes because it is money for our city, no other reason.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Present. Present. For now. I like voting last. 22-072 offered by Counselor Collins. Whereas in February 2020, the Medford City Council, Medford School Committee, and Mayor pledged to make our city hunger-free by 2028. And whereas the pandemic conditions of the past 2 years have exacerbated hunger and food insecurity in Medford, as in surrounding communities. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council reaffirm the pledge to make our city hunger-free by 2028. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Council express support for expanding the city's capacity to address food insecurity, development of convenient and affordable food sources throughout Medford, and targeting our pandemic recovery resources towards ensuring that our community's basic needs are met. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as many folks are no doubt already aware, February 3rd and 4th marked the 2-year anniversary of our city's pledge to become hunger-free by 2028. Really grateful to the school committee, city council that were in effect at the time in 2020, as well as Mayor Lungo Kern for making this commitment. And also, just want to express gratitude for the members and collaborators of the Medford Food Security Task Force for their work behind the scenes, raising this issue of food security in Medford, both prior to the pledge and, in the time after it. As everybody who's working on the issue of hunger and food insecurity in Medford, knows as well as anybody, there's a lot of work that we still have to do to reach the goal of actually being, free of hunger and food insecurity in the next 6 years. We've had some great gains, the Mystic Community Market being among them. There's still a very far way to go. So especially given that budget season is, going to be upon us before we know it. I just think that this is an opportunity for us to state that this is a very strong priority. There's no quick fixes when it comes to eradicating the issue of hunger. But we need to, invest what needs to be invested, convene the groups and conversations that need to be convened to figure out what exactly are the obstacles to eradicating hunger in our city. And then, hopefully make haste to do the work of the economic development and programs and policies that will make going hungry in Medford a thing of the past. Thank you for your consideration.
On the motion of Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Scarpelli, Councillor Sang.
I just wanted to add my voice to support this paper. Thank you, Councillor Collins, for bringing this forward. This is something that I've talked about during the campaign, is how hunger is one of the clearest measures of how we can see the disparities in our community. Working class families, families of color, LGBTQ plus folks, these are people who suffer the most from hunger in our society. And, this is a human right. To be fed is a human right. And, I am strongly in favor of this. I appreciate you bringing up the budget. I think I'd be interested personally in having, in talking to the Board of Health in the future to see what steps our city can take, exactly what actions that we can take on city council, if any. And I would be in favor of addressing such problems like the SNAP gap more specifically. We have a SNAP gap report published from the city of Medford, which shows that if we help our residents apply for SNAP benefits, this actually brings more money to our city as well, and pumps money into our local economy. It's a win-win for everyone, really. And so I'd like to see what the city is planning in terms of helping us close that gap as well.
Councillor Carviallo.
Thank you. And thank you, Council Collins, for bringing this up. No, hunger doesn't strike certain groups. Hunger strikes everybody. There's no denominations or culture groups. It affects everybody. And we have a food pantry here down, Mr. Gav. We have churches that do food banks. We have a lot of organizations that do food. And everybody tries their hardest, but what they all look for is help doing stuff. I don't see anybody stepping up to help these people, these volunteers. I get on there, I work over the Riverside Towers, I volunteered on the food bank. No, everybody wants to talk, but get up and help these people out. We sit here, talk the talk, walk the walk. So again, you want to help, get out there, put your body in there, go stuff bags, go deliver stuff door to door to people. Help everybody out. We're all representatives of this community. So again, I try to do my part as much as possible. But again, these people are always looking for help. Get on the food bank. They're there 6 days a week till 7, 8 o'clock at night, stuffing bags for people. Okay, go around to the housing authority, delivering boxes and bags. These people, they all need help. So it's time for people in the community stop talking and start stepping up.
Councillor Sang.
I appreciate Counselor Caraviallo's call to action. I think it's particularly important to embody that message, and I think one of the ways we can best do it is to make sure that systemically we are tackling this issue.
On the motion of Counselor Collins, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Paris.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, or none in the negative. The motion passes. Counselor Collins.
If I may, motion to take from the table papers 21-631, second 21-631, and 22-023.
On the motion of Counselor Collins, to take papers 21-631, 21-631, and 20 dash. Sorry, 1 second. 20.
Yeah, 21.
Mr. President, under
31.
suspension, I have a paper that's related to that, requesting a legal opinion.
22-023. On that motion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President, from a procedural standpoint, there is a paper that's pending.
We
on
will
suspension.
take it up after this paper.
Well, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, is why I raised the issue.
This is to take off the table papers 21-631, 21-631, and 22-023 by Counselor Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from President Morrell. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
No.
Counselor Scarpelli.
No.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Paris.
Yes, 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The motion passes. Paper 21-631 was passed by this council for first reading on December 21st, 2021. In regards to the positions of the administrative support for COVID-19, the COVID-19 Public Information Officer, the Federal Funds Manager, and parts of amendments L and M, which I believe were for Amendment L, the data analyst and the contact. And for Amendment M, the emergency preparedness coordinator, I believe. Yes, Counselor Carviallo. We have a paper here, Brian. That deals with all of the papers. We do this first and take things move. We can look at that paper after we look at these papers. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Good talk. A point of information, Mr. Point of personal privilege. Ultimately, the paper that I have before me is asking whether or not the papers that we're going to be voting on that were just taken from the table are in compliance with the general laws. So if this paper wouldn't be moot and we take a vote and then the vote says that we're not in compliance with the general laws, I think was a situation. And that's just my understanding of this. And looking at the way that positions have been created and the way positions have been funded, I think we have a significant financial transparency issue, and I think we have a significant financial compliance issue, especially with Chapter 44, Section 33A, related to the Human Resource Director's position, and potentially these as well that are outlined in this paper, and that's why I raised the question. Everybody behind this rail took an oath. Part of that oath was to uphold the rules of the Constitution, the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the ordinances of the City of Medford. I don't think anybody behind this rail can answer the question as to whether or not the City of Medford is in compliance with Chapter 44, Section 33A. Quite frankly, I don't think our CFO can answer that question. But I do raise the question because if I'm going to be taking a vote and putting my name on it, I want that vote to be in line with the oath I took. That's why I've asked for this paper to come first. I won't be supporting the 3 papers that are before me this evening because this paper, I think, addresses a lot of the questions that have been raised over duration relative to the compensation adjustment factor system and the approach that the administration's taking.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. On the paper 21-631, personnel ordinance amendments K and O and parts amendments L and M, is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from President Morale, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Collins. Any further discussion? This is for
Just,
approved for
like to
third
find out,
reading.
This is an ordinance for third reading. It will need 5 votes for passage. Failure to pass will result in the paper being tabled for a period of 90 days and not being able to be reintroduced.
What rule is that?
It's an ordinance. The ordinances require 5 votes. So if this doesn't pass, then it fails. And if the paper fails, it's been disposed of. And if it's disposed of, paper can't be reintroduced to the council for a period of 90 days.
Ordinances require 5 votes pursuant to what?
State general law.
Which chapter and
I believe
section?
it's 44. I believe it's chapter 44.
All right, we're gonna take a minute to look at this.
If we had legal counsel, it'd be like us.
Well, I mean, they were passed for first reading, so.
You need 4 to take off the fact of it.
Find that to be in order. You don't have a specific chapter or section?
It's chapter 44. If you're on section 18 or 20, I think, section 22 has to do with the financial paper being tabled initially. Sections 1 through 84, administration of government, chapter 40, municipal finance. Offhand, no. But I know I'm right. Would somebody like to call President Emeritus Robert Mayako? I believe the vote's been called.
Yeah. Well, my ruling is that it's in order with 4 votes, so unless there's a motion to challenge my ruling as the chair.
All right.
I'm happy to review this before we do that, though. If folks would indulge me.
I'm not challenging the ruling of the chair. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, considering that I don't have the specific citation and I don't want to delay the proceedings, the ruling of the chair is that the
Would
vote,
we not want to err on the side of caution, considering we've taken an oath?
well, considering that this council, worked in good faith to delay for a week and now have a motion under suspension, perpetuating further delay, I'd like to vote.
Haste makes waste.
We're gonna move forward with the vote. Ms. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. No. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli.
Nope.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Barris.
Yes, 4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, motion passes. 21-631, personnel ordinance amendments F, I, J, and parts of amendment L and M. Motion of Councilor Knight to question the ruling of the chair as to whether the amendment passes. Seconded by. Seconded by Councilor Carviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President,
Yes, President Morrell.
I do see Chief of Staff Nazarian has her hand up. I don't know if that would be helpful.
Sure, Madam Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam President. Frankly, I'm not certain of the answer to the question, but I think Councilor Knight presents an interesting question that may be worthwhile holding off to determine to confirm. I have no reason to doubt Counselor Knight on his knowledge of the Mass General Law in this arena. But I admittedly don't have the answer, and I would also probably recommend waiting until we have an answer on that matter to ensure that, these positions can move forward, with the goal of the positions moving forward.
On the motion of Counselor Knight to challenge the ruling of the chair, seconded by Counselor Caraviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Caraviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Present.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Present.
President Morrell.
I'm going to note that I'm going to vote yes for this just because this is a paper that was brought forward by the administration. And since they're noting their own willingness and desire to take a beat to review this, I think that makes sense if that is their wish and they are the folks who delivered this paper. So that's my reason for voting yes for this.
Vice President Barris.
Yes, 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The chair is overruled. My reason as Counselor Morrell, if the sponsor of the paper does not want to move forward, then I'm comfortable keeping this or reverting, if there's a motion to put these back on the table. Yeah.
The Counselor Knight could use his microphone.
To permit a member voting present when the motion, order, or resolution under consideration by the council forbid his or her participation as the conflict interest of law directs, such members should do so. Should so address the council and the chair informing as to why the councilor is voting present. I don't think there's anything in here that says you can vote present unless, I think you have to vote unless you have a conflict of interest. There's a rule in there, and I think that's not it as I look at it, but from what I understand.
So noted.
Well, I certainly would have appreciated that to be brought up on the previous resolution.
Yeah, I'm not the chair. You are, man. I'm not the chair.
I understand.
It happened again. So I brought it up. What do you want me to do?
Mr. President,
The vote is overturned. The vote is overturned. I don't know why we're discussing
a
it.
vote has been taken already.
It was just over, the vote was challenged. There's no vote. So the item remains on the agenda. The ruling of the chair was overturned and the vote was not in the affirmative. Is there a motion on the floor?
I think we have to vote to, I'm saying, do we have to rescind? Yeah, so.
No, we voted on nothing. The chair was incorrect. Is there a motion on the floor regarding these items? Motion to table items 21631, 21631, and 22023 by Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Motion to table all three. They were taken off the table and now motioning to put them back on the table.
Counselor Caraviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Barris.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motions are tabled. Counselor Caraviallo. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Counselor Caraviallo, you are free to file that as an item on the agenda next week.
Counselor Caraviallo could use his microphone.
I'm sorry. I think we need a legal opinion by tomorrow morning.
What a parliamentary
Whether that vote stands or not. Because if that stands, that bill dies for 90 days. Can't come back for 90 days. So I would get a legal, if I were you, I'd be getting a legal opinion first thing in the morning.
I'll be happy to move for reconsideration should the paper come back requiring 5 votes. No, I'll move for reconsideration, put it back on the table. I have no problem with that. But you're saying that I lost the vote, so I can't. I can only move for reconsideration if I won the vote.
I can, Mr. President, if I can move for reconsideration.
Yeah, I'll support it.
So what are we gonna do then?
We'd move for reconsideration on the paper and then ask that it be tabled, and then we'd say yes and yes, and we'd move on.
On the motion to reconsider, paper 21-631 by Counselor Morale, seconded by. Seconded by Counselor Knight. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Vickers.
Yes, 7 affirmative, 0 negative. The motion is back on the table. Are there any motions regarding paper 21-631?
Motion to retable.
Motion to table by Counselor Knight, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Yeah. Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 7 affirmative, 0 negative. The motion is tabled. Reports of committees, paper 22-043, February 1st, Committee of the Whole report. This was regarding the council priorities. Any discussion? Motion approved. Counselor Carviallo, seconded by. Seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. Motion passes. 20-568, February 2nd, 2022, Committee of the Whole report to follow. This was a Committee of the Whole regarding the zoning recodification with Attorney Mark Bobrowski. And we are meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. to continue the discussion on amendments to the zoning ordinance of the city of Medford.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Counselor Carviallo, seconded by. Seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 negative. Motion passes. Public participation. Council President Morrell has let me know that Mr. John Petrella is not available tonight. Council President Morrell, did he have a request for his paper?
He did ask that, just procedurally, this is a question for the clerks, for him to be able to speak next week, as this doesn't have a paper number. Would he just need to resubmit, or could this be tabled?
Are you asking me?
Point of
I think
information. It's a public information paper. It's a public participation paper that has no number, so the clerk has the authority to include it on the agenda next week. The council doesn't take action on those papers anyway. We just sit there and listen, right? And it's up to us to take an action on it in the next week, the following week, to comply with OML. So the clerk can just reissue that.
Okay, Mr. Petrella asked just that it be on for next week if the clerk is so obliged to leave that on.
Can do that.
All right, then any other business before the council?
Mr. President.
Counselor Carviallo.
I have two things. First, President Morrell, the people from Woburn and High have reached out. Their problem has been exasperated. Have you set a date for that meeting with DOT and everybody?
We had a date, and then we could only get a Tuesday date from the Department of Transportation. So let me follow up, because at your recommendation, a Wednesday date to allow more open-ended. So I'll follow up first thing.
We could do any Monday, Tuesday. We can do a Monday or Thursday if you need to. I don't think these people have a problem, but with the snow that happened and all the rain over the past week, their problem has grown. So if we could expedite that, they would be appreciative. And my last thing is, DPW foreman Tenaglia reached out to me this afternoon. As many of us who've been driving around the streets, look like we're driving around a bomb zone. There's holes everywhere. If you have any holes you're looking to patch, call DPW. They're gonna have trucks out in the next couple of days. Awful lot of holes. Some of them will fit your car in there. But if you have a hole or you see one, call the DPW, report it, and they'll do the best to get it filled as soon as possible.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Any further business? Records. Records were passed to me. The chair finds the records in order and moves approval. On the motion of myself, seconded by Counselor Knight, or the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by me. I'm not really sure. Mr. Clerk.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Motion adjourned by Counselor Carviallo, seconded by Counselor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yep.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes.
Vice President Bears.
Yes, 70 affirmative, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.